Welcome to Womb Talk. I'm your host, Elizabeth Vanderholt, a holistic doula and a women's health coach, and the founder of Fruitful Doula Services. This space is for every woman who is walking the path of deeper healing, whether you're tending to your fertility, you're carrying life, you're stepping into motherhood, or you're easing into the wisdom of menopause. Here we honor the full spectrum of womanhood through story, nourishment, and sacred conversation. So feel free to find us on social media and stay connected with the community. Today, we have the amazing Sofia Ashley, who is the owner of Intimacy After Kids, a topic I couldn't help but love to have her speak about. So please introduce yourself, tell us all the things, and the floor is yours.
Mhm. Well, thanks so much for having me. Yeah, for people who may not know me, I am a mom of three. Relevant to our topic here, so I have a step kiddo who's 14, and I've got two of my own that are 7 and 4. So I'm just leaving the postpartum fog. I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's hyperthyroidism after my second baby, um, which I had in my late 30s. So, is that blending with perimenopause? Who knows? Always a good question. But that's kind of some like life experience context for people in terms of why I do the work that I do, I guess, and what I've lived through. But I'm also a certified intimacy coach, and I became certified as an intimacy coach. Oh gosh, I guess almost 12 years ago now, largely because I spent my 20s, as I like to put it, fighting with my vagina. So constant trips to the gyno, constant like pain during intercourse, and really struggled to experience orgasm or like satisfying orgasm. I used to call it, I felt like I was like Sisyphus trying to push the rock up the hill and I couldn't get over to the other side. And so went on a learning journey, explored a lot of the topics you explored here, ended up in some woo-woo spiritual workshop at a yoga studio that was really pushing my edges at the time, and learned about like naming your vagina and like understanding your cycle and free bleeding and like all this cool stuff that people did. And this whole side of like, I don't know, very embodied feminism, I guess, just like reconnecting with our bodies as womb holders and understanding all that that means when society works really hard to disconnect us from that. And yeah, I started on this mission of just really exploring how we're cut off from our power when we're cut off from our sexuality, and that's by design under patriarchy and capitalism. And as I was working with women, as I was coaching people to kind of overcome some of the challenges I was living with at the time, I got kind of fascinated and frustrated by two things. So I became fascinated as I became a mom with the nexus of motherhood and sexuality, because there's this very specific, what's the word, but like overlap of things that happen as we step into parenthood, as the birthing partner in particular, where your physical body and your vagina in particular experiences a bunch of changes and transformations. Your sense of identity is totally burned down and rebuilt, and your relationship faces a lot of new pressures. And all of those things are the nexus for affecting libido and desire in your relationship. And if you don't know that, you are walking around going, I don't want sex anymore, and I don't know why, and my partner feels so unloved because I'm not initiating anymore. So I just became so fascinated with that and trying to explore that in my own self and just for women and other parents. And then also at the same time, I was seeing a lot of moms who were coming to my couch in tears, but like they wanted to fix their body like for their partner, right? Like they felt like, I'm broken, I'm the problem, something's wrong with me. And as soon as my libido comes back, or as soon as I figure out what's wrong with it, everything in our sex life is going to be fine. And that's such a false assumption. It's one of those things we get wrong about intimacy. Is it's a team sport, and I can help you reclaim parts of your libido, but if your partner doesn't know how to make sex a fun, safe, and relaxing place to be, then I'm still not going to get you to the place that you want to go. And so I just really had a desire to work with both partners and to help men in particular and higher libido partners understand how we work together as a team to make our naked fun comeback. So that's what I do now.
I love that. I also love how you were like, and I went to like this woo circle, and I was like, I went to 2 women's circles this summer, my first ever.
Mhm. Okay.
Life-changing. And everybody
Yeah.
knows because I talk about it on here, like, all the time. So when you mentioned that, I was like, "Oh, yeah, uh-huh, it was awesome. Everybody should go to one." But anyway,
Mhm.
talk to us about how libido changes after you have kids. Like, just go into the nitty-gritty with that. So nerd us out.
Mhm. Totally. And so I actually have like 3 full episodes about this topic on my podcast. They're like one of the first 3 or 4. But long story short, if you imagine like 4 quadrants or like 4 boxes, which all overlap, of course, if we're into holistic health. The first is the physical body box, right? And so quickly, you have a pelvic floor that has carried a baby for 9 months, whether you delivered vaginally or had a C-section. You've potentially had surgery or stitching on this area. There's some changes down there. And your hormone fluctuations, especially during breastfeeding, are going to affect arousal, lubrication, those kinds of things. So we often fall into this trap of like hoping or expecting our vagina is literally going to like bounce back the way the rest of our body is going to bounce back. And I want to get off the table right now. Like, we are not talking about the wide, loose, gaping vagina, whatever myth that people want to think. It's just, it's different. Those muscles have been through something really big. Equate it to your Achilles tendon, equate it to tearing a hamstring. They need repair, they need support, they need to be re-strengthened. And they may have not have been very strong and flexible to begin with. And so if your pelvic floor muscles are not operating optimally, you can experience pain, numbness, and irritation during intercourse that is fixable when you mostly work with a pelvic floor physio. Or work with someone who can help you through any kind of birth trauma, maybe that you experienced on kind of like a physical level. So there's that, but there's also hormone changes through breastfeeding. There's also stress, especially when you're a first time parent. There's also sleep and fatigue. And I'd also put in this bucket things like medication that you might be on for depression, ADHD, etc., even birth control. That whole panoply of like physical, biological stuff that's affecting libido is one bucket of stuff that's happening, not all of the buckets.
There's too many buckets, so that was just a lot
Right?
already.
And I typically say if your symptoms, if your challenges are in the first bucket, this is usually where you're talking to a gynecologist or a doctor or a pelvic floor physio and potentially like a naturopath. And we're looking at lifestyle stuff. So we're looking at how we eat, we're looking at how we sleep. We are maybe waiting until we get through nobody sleeping until they're 3. That is part of the adjustment of like understanding, it's not just 6 weeks and you're good to go. It actually takes 2 full years or more for your body to recombobulate itself. And if you've had baby after baby after baby, it's going to be different. And so our bodies take way more time than we think to adjust. And I think one of the first things I really want listeners to understand, especially non-birthing partners or penis owners, is you need to give your partner's body time to heal and understand that when they're breastfeeding, they are not healing. They're being depleted and like literally sucked dry unless they're feeding themselves well. And the way that you support that is by helping them to eat well, feeding them well, getting them the rest that they need so that they can get back to the new version of who they are. So that's bucket number 1. Bucket number 2 is the emotional bucket. And this is everything from postpartum depression, anxiety, etc., which obviously have an overlap to bucket number 1. Things like not feeling comfortable in your body anymore and not feeling sexy because of your body changing. Or also like not feeling like you're allowed to be a sexual being anymore because you're a mother. And somehow those 2 things aren't supposed to equate. Or things like self-consciousness when, some people will like lactate during arousal and they're like, oh my God, there's a discomfort there. Or there's a like, oh, these boobs used to be something I enjoyed for sexual play and now they feed my baby. And so I don't feel comfortable with it being a sexual play thing, right? So we have a lot of like whatever internal stories we have, whatever internal comfort we have around intimacy, but also just our own sense of identity How much are we resting? How much are we relaxing? How much are we allowing ourselves play? And how much are we just like drowning in parenthood under capitalism and oppressive systems, right? So that's a big piece. And our relationship and how good we feel in our relationship right now is another piece. And this is what overlaps with kind of the third and fourth buckets. I almost have to change the system a bit because I don't fully subscribe to it anymore. But then I used to have a cultural bucket and a spiritual bucket, right? And so the cultural bucket has more to do with like all of society's expectations and stories around sex, and things like you just expect to have a dead bedroom after kids, so you don't even try to not have one. You just think it's a given. Or you think as a mother you're not supposed to have a sex life, or you get hung up on the fact that like if we're not having sex 4 days a week then we don't love each other, when how frequently you have sex is like 0% a measure of how much you love each other, especially in that phase of life. So we can have these narratives from the outside as well as narratives like oh yeah, I'm just supposed to like jam faces and genitals together and everyone's going to have a great time. We don't need to communicate or talk at all. Or the fact that most of us know nothing about like how much erectile tissue is in the female body and how long it takes to arouse it and warm it up. So that cultural piece is like our cultural blindness around sex, but also the myths and mythologies that we can fall prey to. And the other piece there is gender scripts, which are those rules that we have around how men and women are supposed to behave in relationships. I'm sure people on your podcast are no stranger to the mental load conversations that are certainly all over like my internet. But what happens often is we can have a fairly equitable relationship before kids, and then babies come and we somehow revert to these more like traditional or conventional gender roles without talking about it or negotiating it. And so everything used to be shared equally. And now I'm doing a bunch of things that are pink jobs and you're just going to work as the blue job. And that can breed a lot of resentment and frustration, again, when it's not negotiated. I don't care how people split jobs in their home, as long as it's intentional and we know who's doing what and it feels like a fair trade. And so that pressure on your relationship, resentment, of course, can affect desire. And then the last box is the spiritual box. And that again has to do with like what rules your spirituality has about intimacy, good or bad. They can be either or. And or it can relate to like how you connect to sexual pleasure as either a spiritual tool or a spiritual place you go or a spiritual experience, I guess. So in a nutshell, there's 5.5 million reasons why your libido disappeared after kids. And I used to be really obsessed with diagnosing this. And I used to have these charts where I'd be like, let's figure out, is it sleep for you? Is it partner issues for you? Do we just need to fix mental load? And I'm not against root cause here. Like, for sure, some people need to treat their postpartum anxiety and they're good to go. For sure, some people just need to see a pelvic floor physio and they're good to go. And taken all together, we can also end up playing a little bit of what I call like root symptom whack-a-mole, where it's like you fix the hormones, but then the sleep's an issue. And then you fix the sleep and then your relationship is an issue. And so there's like always something that's putting things out of whack. And so I'm way more of a fan now of kind of like looking at this globally to go like all of this just equates to pressure on my system. It equates to sex being a no-go zone. My body is just like, yeah, no. And so how I work with people is supporting them to pull the one lever so that sex can be at least a maybe zone and hopefully a yes zone more often than not.
And I love how a lot of that was emotional and like everybody else's BS. Like
Mm-hmm.
I always say this is that a lot of what our problems are other people's problems that they put on
Yes.
us. And so
Yeah.
when you were mentioning that, you're like, oh well, the kind of emotional of it, and I'm like, yeah, it's kind of looking like it's a lot of other people's problems put on me. And
I call them great sexpectations. There are
ah,
many,
I like
and they will
names.
kill your sex life.
Well, do you think that this is also an education thing that a lot of people are lacking, like this knowledge kind of before? Like, I'm always very blessed. I always say I got into this world, I was like 16, 14. I was like really into women's health and just big mega boom. But, you know, there
Yeah.
are teenagers that are interested in this, and they go life going through, you know, whatever rigid kind of like life plan. Like, I've never been rigid, so I just do whatever the hell I want. But you know what I mean? Like, I always think of others, and I'm like, is this something that maybe people should be talking about way earlier in life? Like, before you have kids, should this be in your prenatal education, maybe? Like,
100%. And I think a lot of doulas and naturopaths do some of that work. I mean, the joke I find for me is that 99% of what I'm doing with people is just giving them the sex ed they should have had in high school, which was mostly focused on not making babies and not getting diseases, neither of which are particularly relevant at this particular stage in life for people. um, and some of the mindset stuff, right?
yeah,
So but again, that comes down to the sex ed piece, where if you had been taught from a young age that sex was for pleasure, that sex could be enjoyed, that sex was more than a penis and vagina, that in fact, great sex is about pleasure and vulnerability, the other P and V, as I like to joke, you wouldn't have most of these problems. But we have, I think, on one side, a lot of men who find validation in their relationship measured by how much their partner's having sex with them. If you're having sex with me a lot, I'm a good partner, I'm a hot partner, you want me, you desire me, we're all good. And when that goes away for good reason after a baby, they're like, where's my validation?
yeah,
And you're like, well, the validation comes from you, my dear. I think too, like, we don't talk enough about how it's going to impact people. We don't talk a lot about like the dynamic of, you know, there were two of us and my spotlight was on you and now my spotlight's down here. And as a breastfeeding person, I'm getting all my dopamine and oxytocin from snuggling this baby all day. And you come home from work and I'm like, my cup's full, I'm good. And you're like starving. And we don't talk enough about, and this is hard, and the anxiety of first baby for sure. I'm just like thinking back to my own experience, but like we have to save room in the tank for us. And we have to put
yeah,
the oxygen mask on our relationship too, because, and this is why I do the work I do. Like, if you put your kids before your partner, you will end up divorced. And then you didn't serve your kids, because what your kids need is parents who love each other, who are together in the ideal scenario. That's not always,
yeah,
I don't advocate us for forcing ourselves to stay together. But if the only reason you leave each other is because you can't figure out the sex part, which is actually one of the top 5 reasons people get divorced,
wow,
you have not served your children in the way that you were hoping to. Like this is really about keeping families together and role modeling to our children what a loving, caring, passionate relationship can look like and what they can look forward to.
yeah. So, what do the people that are not giving birth, like the non-birthing partners, those who have high libido, you know,
Mhm.
what do they need to know about sex after kids? Like, I'm feeling like this is a really long list, so maybe give us some bullet points. But
Yes. So, I mean, bottom line, because there's already a lot of nuggets in here. If we're thinking years 1 to 3, right?
yeah,
First, ditch your 6 weeks expectation. Not only is their body probably not ready, but they're likely not emotionally ready either. Your job, the validation you can find as a partner in that first year, is to support the shit out of your birthing partner. That means making sure there is water and food next to them at all times. It means offering as much rest as you can offer while also getting rest yourself. And it means communicating, like, have a conversation about sex. Say, okay, what about sex? Where are you at? Do you feel ready? What do you want to explore? Are you into like making out a little bit? Are you into intercourse? Could I just go down on you? Do you want to go down on me? Like, let's have an ongoing conversation. Let's have a check-in every couple of months to see like what could possibly be on the table right now. And if your partner's a pretty hard no for a while, I just also say the second piece of advice would really be like, make an agreement. It's really a struggle for both of you when there's just this assumption. We've had the baby, she's not ready. I'll just wait until she's ready. I'll just wait an undetermined amount of time until the magical libido finally lands. Instead of, we have a conversation. Hey, things are off the table for me for now. Can we revisit in 3 months? Put a date on the calendar, this is us tending to our sex life, is talking about it. And here's how we're going to make each other feel loved and show affection to each other in the meantime. So what is replacing sex to make us both feel loved, appreciated, validated in the meantime? And if you can make an agreement like that, that's intentional, it still might be hard for your higher libido person, but it's all on the table. It's all above board. We're not just waiting for the libido fairy to arrive. So those are really my two biggest pieces of advice for higher libido partners.
And so important. And I feel like the check-in should almost be all the time. I mean, I am not at the current physical relate, but I feel like that should be like a kind of usual routine. Maybe if you did it before or during pregnancy or things like that, that might even help with the lead up afterwards, right? To have it kind of that habit stacking, the building the blocks of it a little bit, right?
100%. And I mean, it's the same goes for like intimacy during pregnancy. It gets affected by different things, and we can be having conversations about what we want that to look like during that piece.
So what are we getting wrong about sex after delivery? Like, be hardcore with us here. Like, tell us as it is. Like, what's wrong?
I mean, what are we getting wrong? I think the biggest one is people are waiting for their libido to just magically reappear. So there's a lot of like, when I get off the hormones, like when I'm stop breastfeeding, when the baby sleeps through the night, when this, when that, when we get through me going back to work. And there can just be a constant postponement of never-ending reasons to wait for your libido to come back. And what I want people to know is libido is a science and an art, but there is an actual way to know how to throw a party your libido wants to show up to instead of just waiting for her to crash. And when you know how to do that for yourself or for your partner, then you can you're like, essentially, you're in the driver's seat. You are not at the mercy of your libido. And when you know that and you know how to do that, you can maintain your intimacy instead of putting it off so long you leave each other, which is what we want to avoid.
And it's always easier to come up with more excuses, though. Like, for everything. Like, that doesn't just around sex. It's like about everything. You can come up with an excuse. It's much easier to postpone things than actually get the job done.
Totally. The other two I'll say just really quickly is please start embracing scheduled sex. Everyone hates it. They go, it's not sexy, it's not spontaneous. And I go, scheduled sex is more sex than the no sex that you're just praying will happen. And there is an art, again, to scheduling sex that doesn't suck. So a lot of people don't like it because they're like, Saturday at 3, I'm just supposed to ask my libido to show up. And I'm like, no, you're going to throw a party she wants to show up to. Totally different ballgame. And again, for higher libido partners who are like, well, I want to do it more frequently. Like if we manage 2 scheduled dates a month or 4 scheduled dates a month in this season, knowing it's not forever, that's better than nothing. That's 4 pennies in the connection jar versus no pennies in the connection jar. So the other piece is to get out of the all or nothing thinking. So many people are like, if we didn't go all the way, penis and vagina, everyone orgasms, then why even bother? And I'm like, because if you made out and had a good giggle together, or if one of you had an orgasm or whatever, like that's still pennies in the connection and pleasure jar, which is creating a positive association for your partner, which is begetting more good intimacy. So quit making it all or nothing, schedule it, and learn how to throw a party your libido wants to come to, and you will be better off than 99.9% of the population.
I love that, honestly, and it's a good mentality to have about all or not. Like, the all or nothing thing is kind of overrated, really. So, guys, this is wisdom. This means that you actually should all be hopping off right now. Go figure some things out. Cut it out, okay? So this is your opportunity to cut. I know we got great wisdom going on, but like, let's turn it off here. So, what are the top 3 things that helped you get your naked fun come back after the kids?
And I mean, I have the advantage of being a sex coach, right? But I want people to know, like, I was where you are, okay? Second baby, Hashimoto's, I was like, I could be fine without ever having sex again, except I know that my relationship can't sustain that. And I know that visiting my vagina regularly and making sure she has a good time is actually good for my whole body and my whole health, even though it doesn't feel that way. So I just used my tools on myself and it worked, and it works for other people. And the biggest one I would say is making sure we're working together as a team. So this is not birthing partners broken and we just need to fix them and we'll do better. This is, we are both going to get a book, work with a coach, do whatever to like get the sex ed we never had. We're going to level up our skills and learn how to make love to each other again in this like new era. And when you hit perimenopause, you'll be in another new era. And if someone gets cancer, you'll be in another new era. You will always be in a new era. So get the
Yes.
skills now and you will life-proof your sex life.
I love that.
The second is stop thinking about it as sex and start thinking about it as naked play with your partner, because that's what it is. And when we get rid of the goal of sex and what that means for people and the load that comes with it, and we get rid of the performance that comes with it, and we just say, my only goal is to get naked and have fun with you, my whole nervous system can relax into that in a very different way, and I can actually enjoy myself. And the last one, in particular for my lower libido partners, but higher libido too, is find the maybe zone. So 9 times out of 10 now when I initiate sex, it's not because I'm like ragingly horny, like, oh my God, I need to take your clothes off right now. It's a tiny little like, we have a window of opportunity. The teenager's not home tonight and the kids are in bed. Maybe I could. That's enough to go off of when you know how to throw a party your libido wants to come to. So stop waiting for the like, oh my God. And partially the oh my God is gone because you've been together for a long time. Intimacy looks different in a longer term relationship. So find the maybe zone, find what you could say yes to. If you can say yes to a back massage, great. Say yes to that. Enjoy that. See what else comes. If you can say yes to a makeout, great. Enjoy that. See what else comes. And the more you practice those 3 things, thinking of it as naked fun, finding your maybe zone, and now I forget the first one I said already.
I'm no help because I don't remember.
And whatever the first one was that I said, people,
Yeah.
my brain's a little bit tired today. That's when things really start to shift. Oh, working together as a team.
There we go.
That's
There we go.
when it starts to be a difference. It came to me.
But like it's, and like you said about the like naked play, why as adults do we have to make everything boring? Like
Mhm.
I'm just saying, I don't know, we don't have to make things boring. I let's just do some fun things.
Make a sexy fun time, my friends.
So how do people work with you? Are you just in your local area? Or are you online, or like?
No, yeah. So I am virtual. People can head to intimacyafterkids.com/work with me. The best place to start is either the podcast, and I'll give you a link to the currently one, but I'm developing more specific postpartum episode that I have.
Okay, awesome.
And there is a free resource in there with some wonderful play activities to explore. And then otherwise, typically I work with people who are a little bit past the postpartum fog, but I have a couple of like workshops people can do to embrace naked play that are super inexpensive. And then otherwise I work with people in my signature program, and that's kind of like 4 months together to really help you get through all of these blocks, develop the right habits, the right mindset, and learn everything you should have learned in high school so that you can be that couple that can't keep their hands off each other, that's really enjoying themselves and is in the habit of pressure-free and playful fun.
I love that. And my brain is just thinking like of how much fun people will get afterwards, like once working with you and like actually seeing some things happen. How to say this without getting off the internet.
Yeah. Well, I mean, essentially when I work with people, it's like they're in a dry spell or they're doing it like once a month.
Yeah.
And oftentimes someone's caving and like it's kind of mediocre. And when they leave me, like they have a habit of scheduled for them, regular for them, whatever that looks like, low pressure play. And everyone's excited about it and looking forward to it. And that's what we want.
We're having a banging good time.
That's right. Couldn't have said it better myself.
So my last question that I kind of get people
Mhm.
on a little bit, like on the spot a little bit, but what does being a woman mean to
Oh gosh,
you?
the layers of that question. Um, it's so funny because yeah, when I went to said woo woo workshop, which I'm now a total fan of the woo, um, it was a really big experience of like coming back to my body. And so at that time, I probably would have told you, and for like a good 10 years after that, that it was about having boobs and being able to reproduce and like being in the body of a quote unquote female. And now I don't know anymore. I mean, to me, I think it's an energetic thing. um, yeah, it's about I don't have a simple answer for that anymore because I'm like, and that, and now there's people who identify as men who are walking around with vaginas, which is rad. And so I feel like transness really, in a beautiful way, helps us to question like what any of that really means. And at the end of the day, we're all just humans who are bags of hormones, our own unique mix, walking around in the world,
Yeah.
being who we are. So I don't know. Yeah, it's not a nice, neat and tidy answer for you.
No, I just like to put people on the spot a little bit. It's kind of like
Yeah,
what I do per season. I come up with a random question, and that's kind of like
nice. I love it.
how do we get people like talking, and then
I
the
know.
goal is to put a collaboration together of like what they all were, but I have yet to
Oh,
do that.
cool. Yes. Well, 10 years ago, I probably would have said my womb, my body, like the ability to produce life and all that stuff. And now it's not that I feel like we need to go to this like genderless space. I am a woman, I identify as a woman. And the question, I guess, becomes like, why or how, And I guess I'm just like, because I'm me.
Yeah, and that's a perfectly great answer.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
just